Alright, we have a little bit of a Lakers trade update, specifically about two players on the team that have definitely been talked about in trade rumors or possible trade reports or I guess hypothetical trade ideas. Those two being Gabe Vincent and Jared Vanderbilt. Vincent being under an expiring contract, under a 1-year $11 million contract for this season, while Jared Vanderbilt is under contract for 3 more years and definitely is not viewed as a good contract. And according to Sean Devney, the Lakers have quote-unquote had opportunities to include the likes of Gabe Vincent and Jared Vanderbilt in trade packages already, but have declined to do so. Continuing by saying that, still the feeling around the Lakers that the team is pretty much set as is, and that no major trades are forthcoming until the season gets rolling. They've had opportunities to include both of them in trades, but have declined to do so. And well, not only is that pretty interesting, but pretty shocking in my opinion too. I mean, say what you want about Jared Vanderbilt and Gabe Vincent, but if you're talking about a Lakers trade that doesn't include either Rui Hachimura or Austin Reeves, then it likely has to include either one of them or Maxi Kleber if you're talking about a decent sized trade. After all, they're the contracts that are a salary in between 10 to 15 million, so you typically do need to include them to make a decent sized trade. If you're trading for an all-star or even a high-level role player, then you're likely going to have to include one of them. And following the addition of Marcus Smart, I think that made Gabe Vincent a bit more expendable, so hearing that they have declined to trade him is pretty shocking in my opinion. Then with Jared Vanderbilt, having a pretty bad contract that he's yet to live up to, hopefully he can eventually get to that point, but definitely has not lived up to it quite yet, primarily in regard to durability and simply staying on the court. I mean, throughout the past couple of years now, Vanderbilt's not been healthy, only playing 36 games last season, 29 during the 23-24 NBA season, and not hitting the 50 game mark in 3 years now. In fact, he barely combined to hit 50 games in the past 2 years now. So hearing that they have declined to trade him and outright have declined a trade package for him, that's actually pretty surprising in my opinion. I'm not sure that they have even gotten an offer for him, at least not a direct offer for Jared Vanderbilt. I really doubt that anyway. With the contract that he's not lived up to yet, with it being a 3-year contract that does have a player option at the end of it, I really doubt that any team's really looking to trade for Jared Vanderbilt. And not only that, but I wouldn't want to trade him at his absolute lowest trade value at this point. That's something that many fans tend to push for. That's not a good idea in my opinion. Trading a player when they're coming off a down year, an injury-plagued year, when they have little to no trade value to speak of. And that's the point we're at with Jared Vanderbilt. So if I had to guess, and given that this report's actually true and not simply making stuff up, I would think that maybe a rebuilding team reached out to them about the contract of Vanderbilt, or maybe both Vanderbilt and Vincent together, saying that they would take on the contracts in exchange for draft compensation or future draft reparation. Maybe that's what this is going on here. Maybe that's the kind of team or trade package that they got reached out to about. I really doubt that a contender reached out and said, hey, we want Jared Vanderbilt and we'll give you a real asset for it, and the Lakers declined that kind of trade. That's not what this report is talking about here, or I really highly doubt it again. Again, I like Jared Vanderbilt, I like Gabe Vincent, but it's not arguable that they have good trade value at this point. Neither one of them do. Vincent obviously has better trade value than Jared Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's either a neutral or negative trade asset, Vincent a slight positive trade asset, primarily in regard to that expiring contract, and I guess the fact that he's shown that he can be a playoff contributor, mainly during his time in Miami and not really with the Lakers quite yet. Hopefully he can eventually get to that point if they keep him, and right now they do appear to want to keep him, but he's only a minimal trade asset at best. So with that in mind here, I guess the final question left is maybe should they have traded them or thought harder about trading them? Again, given that they had a real trade package offer for them and some or multiple teams actually wanted them, should they maybe have thought harder about doing that and offloading them from their team? That's definitely up for debate here, but talking about both of them individually, for Jared Vanderbilt again, I definitely wouldn't have gone that route. Again, I personally don't believe that any team offered them a good trade package, anything more than simply a draft pick compensation exchange that the Lakers actually have to give up the draft picks to simply get rid of Jared Vanderbilt. A different team taking on his contract over the long-term duration, again over the 3 years that he has left on that contract, in reparation for draft compensation. And for me personally, I wouldn't go that route and would not have gone that route. I mean, I know Jared Vanderbilt's not been very healthy and hasn't been a great on-court contributor for their team in a couple of years now. Even when on the court, his defense hasn't been quite what it was back during the 2022-23 NBA season. And obviously he's not been able to stay on the court that much, has not improved offensively, isn't a good 3-point shooter, even sometimes a borderline offensive liability. but I still think they can get more from Jared Vanderbilt on the court and on their team rather than what they could get through him for a trade package, which again would not be very much and probably would have to include draft compensation to simply get rid of him. Now maybe if we were talking about a 35-year-old or a declining player in general, then maybe I would go that route. Though we're not here, we're talking about a 26-year-old Jared Vanderbilt, a guy that should be in or entering the prime of his NBA career, does have plenty of time to get his health situation under control, does have time to become more durable yet, does have time to actually be worth that contract and get back to the player that he was prior to the injuries. So I think that it would be a worse idea to trade him and offload him to simply get rid of him in that contract, rather than hold on to him and maybe hope that he gets back to that contract level, or simply can show improvement in that time frame, which in my opinion would be the better route to go here. I mean, yes, he's not a great offensive player, hasn't been very durable, but when he's on the court, he still is probably their best defender on the team right now. Following them trading Anthony Davis, that kind of left Jared Vanderbilt as their most versatile defender, a guy that can match up 1 through 4 on the court, a guy that at one time, and pretty much what earned him that contract, was from his elite defense at the point of attack, getting him back to that role on defense, Redick maybe using him a bit better, Vanderbilt being able to stay healthy. Any or all combinations of that could lead to Vanderbilt being worth that contract and being worth a whole lot more for their team rather than what they could get from him or get through him through the trade package. Though then moving on to Gabe Vincent, and this one's a bit different. Unlike Jared Vanderbilt, he was actually a lot healthier last season, playing 72 out of a possible 82 games for their team, one of the most healthy and durable players on their team last season, only falling behind Dalton Knecht, and that's actually pretty impressive and pretty underrated about Gabe Vincent. Not only that, but he had a very good second half of the season, unfortunately not really during the postseason where he didn't play that much, but did play pretty well following December, having a really rough October and November, but after that point actually shot very well from the 3-point line, played a whole lot better offensively and defensively, shooting roughly 38% from the 3-point line post-October and November, obviously that being a majority of the season, and a lot more to factor in here with Gabe Vincent, playing pretty well on defense for their team, all around being a 3-and-D option and one of the few two-way guys that were on their team in that time frame. But, following the addition of Marcus Smart, he kind of becomes a bit more expendable in my opinion, Marcus Smart being better in that role compared to Gabe Vincent, that point of attack defender role, Smart being a more versatile defender that actually can match up with wing players unlike Gabe Vincent, Smart being the much more physical defender on the court, having a larger wingspan and all around having the more physical, get up in your face kind of mentality compared to Gabe Vincent, who I'm not saying is a bad defender as that's definitely not true, but Smart's definitely an upgrade over Gabe Vincent, definitely on defense and roughly the same amount offensively. Better scorer than Gabe Vincent, not as good of a 3-point shooter, slightly worse, and that would be the primary difference between them. But overall, I definitely would take Smart over Gabe Vincent, and if I had to guess why they want to keep Gabe Vincent, it probably would come down to durability. Again, like I said, Gabe Vincent played 72 out of a possible 82 games last season, and that's definitely not the same case for Marcus Smart. Only playing 54 games in the past 2 years combined now, much kind of like Jared Vanderbilt, has not been healthy for a few years, has not been very durable or reliable on the court because of that, and that's probably the reasoning for keeping Gabe Vincent. Not only that, but probably the trade packages they have been offered for him have not been very good, haven't been able to find a good trade package that they have involved Gabe Vincent in, so at that point probably keep him rather than trade him for something to simply offload him. The current free agent market, there's not a definitive upgrade over him left. Definitely guys you can make an argument for, somebody like Gary Payton II, maybe an Amir Coffey, so on and so forth, but nobody you can point to that you can definitely say they'd be a major upgrade over Gabe Vincent, and that it would be worth offloading him to simply get rid of his contract, which would not be a great idea in my opinion. And well, between the two of Gabe Vincent and Jared Vanderbilt, that's kind of where things stand on them and the current trade standpoint with them. The Lakers not being willing to trade them for simply nothing, which again is the route that I would take, and I think they have the right mindset with it. I think they're definitely not untouchable, definitely wouldn't use that word to describe them, but they're not going to trade them to simply offload their contract. They're going to take the more patient approach, and I know some fans don't like to hear that. They're going to wait and evaluate this current team, see what their actual needs are and if they've filled them or if they haven't quite filled them yet, and then use that evaluation to then make a later trade, likely using the contract of a Gabe Vincent, Jared Vanderbilt, Maxi Kleber, maybe a combination of one, two, or all three of them, maybe with a Rui Hachimura. At that point, that's what they're looking to do, and more so at the trade deadline rather than right now. So yes, I actually think this report has a lot of truth to it. Not saying that Vincent and Jared Vanderbilt have gotten a lot of trade offers for the Lakers, but I think it's true that they're not willing to trade them for nothing. Probably have declined a trade offer or two for them that simply have been to offload their contract and probably having to include draft compensation to do it. I think that's probably what this report is talking about, and that the Lakers are more comfortable entering the season with them, hoping to improve their trade value, and believe that they can get more out of them on the court and on their team, rather than through a trade package right now. So with all of that being said here, what do you guys think? How do you feel about this trade report regarding Jared Vanderbilt and Gabe Vincent? Do you think the Lakers are making the right move by not trading them, potentially even declining a few trade offers for them, and keeping them and keeping their entire team together up until maybe the trade deadline to evaluate them, rather than making a trade right now? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one. And if you enjoyed the video, then I would greatly appreciate it if you dropped a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day or night.